Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Fantasy Fangirls podcast, where two sisters dive deep into beloved fantasy lore, characters, themes, theories, and more. Today is part 2 of our Ask Us Anything bonus episode featuring your incredible theory and deep dive fourth wing questions. And before we start, like always, content warning. This podcast is indeed rated R.
I truly have no idea where the R rating is going to come from today, other than language. You know me. But you never know with us, so you have been warned.
We also, of course, talk spoilers. Everything from the entire fourth wing book, the Iron Flame excerpt and speculations, and of course anything else that Rebecca Yarros has said is on the table.
This is literally nothing but spoilers and speculation. So if you haven't read the book, what are you doing here? Go listen to the book and come back. You are choosing violence if you have not read the book and you're listening to this. And now let us dive into these incredible theories from this incredible book and from this incredible community.
So even dividing our AMA into 2 episodes, with this one focused on fourth wing theories, there is unfortunately just no way we can get to all of your amazing questions. So please do keep an eye out on social media for more answers and new opportunities to ask your questions if you haven't heard them answered here.
Also keep in mind that many of these questions and theories were asked by many different people. So we're going to credit the person who we first saw the question/theory from.
And last but not least, this is also just a friendly reminder / disclaimer that these are only our opinions. Like, we don't know what's going to happen in the series any more than the next person. Part of the fun of theorizing is just how many perspectives, twists, and unknown lore there is involved. So in other words, like, there's just no wrong answers here, and these are only ours.
I cannot wait to come back and listen to this episode after like 2-3 more books have come out and just been like, wow.
Oh, even Iron Flame. Like, yeah, we are so dating ourselves here. It's
really
okay.
Part of the fun. So we're going to start off with the category of future book predictions. So Hello Steph 4 asks, if you had to guess the topic or major setting of each of the next books, what would it be? Lex, you kick it off.
First of all, I'll just say here, as we talk about Iron Flame, we are going to keep this brief because we are doing a whole bonus episode about Iron Flame predictions. It's going to be coming out on October 30th. So we know that the timeline for Iron Flame is 6 months. So that's about half a school year. So we can already confirm we'll get Conscription Day. We've already seen that in an excerpt. We have a whole bonus episode on it. We'll also, for second years, we'll have a lot more wielding training, which means we'll get a lot more Professor Carr. I know Nicole's excited about that. And, just knowing that we'll be at Basgiath, we'll go through the hand-to-hand challenges, the gauntlet, presentation day, and threshing from a second year's perspective. I personally think that Sloane will be one of our new main side characters, like the reader's champion who is now going through these experiences we went through with Violet last year. And then, of course, there's the back and forth between Xaden and Violet. We know that there will be a lot of challenges for them, both geographically, with their dragons needing to be near one another, and emotionally, as our girl learns more secrets and just how to trust him again. Speaking of Violet, I think that we are going to get a lot more of Violet's family dynamics answered in Iron Flame as the story really continues focusing on Violet. Book 1's ending set it up so well for that family drama, and I'm so excited to tap more into that.
I retweet everything you just said. I agree completely. I think we're very aligned with what we think is going to be the main themes of Iron Flame. I do think that book 2 will also be Violet getting more inducted into the rebellion, the challenging her thoughts and beliefs. We're going to be personally, I think we're going to be getting a lot of here's what actually is happening. I think we just got like a taste or a brief skim of the surface in Fourth Wing, and going through an Iron Flame, we're going to get a lot more perspective, from hopefully Brennan, maybe not a personal POV, but definitely talking to him more. I really hope, I have this in a minute, but I really do hope / think that Brennan's going to become a main character for us. I think he's going to be more of a main character than Mira was in Fourth Wing. I also think that we know this from the book summary that's on Iron Flame in Amazon and all that kind of stuff, that there is going to be an introduction of a big bad character. I have a feeling this is going to be a big bad character now for multiple books.
When you say the big bad character, are you referring to the new Vice Commandant?
That one, yeah. So like the new Vice Commandant, for instance, like we know from the synopsis that he was included in the synopsis. We can assume that he's going to be major in this book. And I think that Dane is also going to be a big big bad in this book. I don't think we're going to even get close to a redemption arc yet for him in Iron Flame. I think that he's actually going to get worse before he maybe gets better. Again, I'm going to talk about that more in a second. I have a lot of things on that.
He is just, I just see him because he's going to think he's the good guy. Like always, he's going to think that he's doing the right thing. And it's just like, Gabby,
here's what I will say that I'm excited for. I'm excited to learn how is Violet going, and Imogen, how is Violet and Imogen going to be treated when they go back to Basgiath? They were supposed to die. I don't think Xaden's going to be a part of Basgiath in any way, shape, or form. I think he, by choosing to go after the Venin and to defend the city in the last battle of the book, he's not allowed to go back to Navarre and be safe. So how are Violet and Imogen going to
agree with that at all?
Really? But in the note, I'm working on episode 7 right now, so I like dissected the note from Colonel Atos, and it basically says like you either abandon your position, aka like you abandon your position as wing leader, as like a member of this Navarrian leadership, by going after the Venin, by going to defend the city, or you go to this totally different outpost, which is actually your assignment for war games. By choosing to go after the Venin, he abandoned his post.
Yes, and he wasn't supposed to survive either. And so I agree. I have no idea how it's going to go here. And I do think that nobody's just going to let him and Sigale go and do their own thing. Like, they're not going to ostracize him when he is bonded to one of the most powerful dragons, when he is one of the most powerful people. He was not supposed to survive this attack.
No.
And so I think there's going to be a major dynamic where they're going to kind of like pretend like things are okay, maybe. And then he's obviously going to continue being even more so involved in the rebellion.
To go back to the original question, I do think that the major theme of Iron Flame is going to be relearning history from scratch, basically. I think it's going to be introduction to the rebellion.
Yeah, we'll be learning the truth. We got kind of like the good foundation of what everybody believes, and now Iron Flame is really going to be exploring the truth. And speaking of the truth, I believe that this also means we're going to be getting more of Violet's story too, like her backstory, which surprisingly we haven't really gotten a whole lot of. We have a really good sense of her character. We have a really good sense of the current dynamic with her family, at least on the outside of things. And now we're going to really start seeing the complexities of her family dynamic, the much more nuances of that family history that has led to the truth of how it really is today. Book 1 has us asking so many questions, and book 2 will answer a lot of them. And books beyond will bring in more answers as well, and a few more questions, as just the story shifts from the focus of our main human characters to more of the dragons.
And I do think that in regards to like Xaden and Violet's romance, I think that book 2 is going to be Xaden trying to win Violet back, and like the like conflicting of emotions of I fucking hate you, but I also fucking love you, and I don't know what to feel right now. I think that that's going to be the major dynamic of them romantically here. I do have a prediction though that I want to make about the ending of book 2. Could be 100% convinced that book 2, the cliffhanger, because Rebecca, she loves a cliffhanger, is going to end with everyone at Basgiath being called into formation. Again, this is only halfway through the school year, being called into formation and basically being like, you are all getting sent to the front lines. And that's how the book is going to end. That's my assumption.
Or then their first experience on the front lines too, kind of like how this ending was with the war games. But I don't know. Yeah,
possibly.
Man, if she has another cliffhanger, I don't.
It's going to be another cliffhanger. There's no way it's not.
And then this is us totally just freely speculating here. Book 3, I would be surprised if we return to Basgiath to finish out their second year.
I agree. I think that book 3 and probably honestly onward is going to be deep in rebellion. I mean, Xaden is not necessarily the leader, but he's in leader roles in the rebellion. And I do think that Violet being his right-hand girl, she is going to be very much a part of that. Also, she wields fucking lightning. She's bonded to Tairn and Undarna, who's fucking huge now. I do think book 3 is going to be politicking with a capital P. I think that is going to be the politicking book. I know you're so excited.
I really hope so. Speaking about being really excited, books 4 and 5, I really do believe are going to be focused more on the dragons.
I truly have no clue. That's where I'm like, maybe. I do think the big battle of good and evil, Venin and non-Venin. I think that's going to happen in book 5. A lot of people think that's going to be book 4 or book 3.
Oh, I like me, yeah.
You know how in Game of Thrones, in episode 3 of season 8 was the Battle of Winterfell. It was this beautiful fucking battle that no one could fucking see because it was super dark. And then in episode 7, it was like King's Landing, that whole battle. And it's like, someone put it perfectly. It was like beating Voldemort in book 4 and then going on to the Quidditch World Cup in book 7.
That was season 8 was such a disaster. I don't know how to reference that.
But that's kind of what I think it would be like, because if the Venom, I'm seeing this as like they are the ultimate evil in this book series. So that's why I'm saying books 4 or 5. I'm leaning towards 5, but like I could see if it's in book 4 and then book 5 is the like the leadership and the aftermath and like, you know, all the stuff with, that's probably when we'd find out about like Lilith and her total involvement. Like I have no idea. I'm truly freely speculating. I have no idea, but that would be my guess in this moment, but I have the right to change my mind. Which brings us to our next question. Jessica Lagerquist on TikTok asks, do you have any theories about the title of the Fourth Wing series, The Empyrean? So many theories, Jessica. We have so many theories.
So yes, first of all, I really and truly believe that this is a promise that the book series isn't so much about Basgiath, but more so about the dragons. We didn't learn much about the dragons in book 1 for a reason. I've talked a lot about this before already. There's so much mystery around the dragons. I really believe that books 3 through 5, specifically 4 and 5, will lean more heavily on the dragons when we have the full foundation for, I'll call it the human society. And so we'll really get into the nuances of the politics of the dragons, the culture, the rules. I bet you anything we'll even go to the Vale. I don't know whose perspective it'll be from. I think it'll be Violet, but wouldn't that be crazy? I think that we will get a dragon's perspective. How cool would it be if we ended up getting Andarna's perspective at some point, right? So Amy emailed us a fascinating theory that the Empyreans are the ones actually keeping everyone in the dark about the Venom, not Command. And again, this is just another one of those really fun theories because we don't know much about the dragons, their motives, the dynamic between all of them right now. And that was a theory that I honestly hadn't thought of before. And it's like, just wouldn't that be so cool? Anyway, it just, again, it opens up so many questions about the dragons' motives. And I can't wait to learn all about this.
I actually didn't even write any notes in this section because I read yours and I just wanted to hit like the repost button because I agree completely. We've talked so much on the show about how the dragons are not the pets, the humans are. And I think that is directly reflected in the fact that this is the Empyrean series. I really hope we get more knowledge on like dragon politics. I think we're pretty much guaranteed to get more info on that. What I'm going to be curious about is who's going to be the leader of the Empyrean, because right now it's Coda, but someone actually, I'm so sorry, I don't know the name, but someone said that Taryn and Coda might be brothers and how like that they could be fighting it out on either side of the war, where Taryn is the leader of the dragons on the rebellion side and Coda is the leader of the dragons on the Navarian side. I could 100% see that happening. And I do think they're connected in some way, not just because they're both the same breed of dragon, but because of their dynamic, especially at threshing.
There's also something kind of like a big brotherly sense too. Taryn at one point says he's not the most powerful dragon on the continent. Professor Carr says something like, you have the most powerful dragon at Basgiath, and then Taryn mumbles, but not on the continent. And I believe that he is thinking of Coda. Like he knows. He's a younger brother in this instance. If we were talking about them as brothers there, so
that's a very younger sibling thing to say. I feel like it's like I'm good, but I'm not as good as my older sister. Damn it.
I don't know. When it comes to podcasting, I'm pretty sure you're the better.
Okay, I've been doing it for 5 years.
So now moving on to lots of questions around Lilith Sorrengail and Violet's dad, and just again her family dynamic here. So whoopity scoop poop. I want to hear the story behind that username from Reddit. And Pipsqueak11 had several questions all surrounding Lilith and Violet's dad. So I'm just going to answer all of them and other similar ones here collectively because it would be too complicated to parse them out. Is General Sorrengail evil, good, or somewhere in the middle? Oh, what a good question. Following up, did she want Violet to die, or did she make the storm during the parapet? Did she feel indifferent, or was she trying to protect Violet, like some are theorizing, by putting her in the writer's quadrant? Nicole?
I'm pretty open on this podcast about being very on the fence when it comes to Lilith. However, as we're getting towards the end of the book, specifically Reunification Day, I'm really leaning towards Lilith is good and that she's trying to protect Violet by putting her in the writer's quadrant. I'm firmly in the camp that Violet's dad was killed by Command. I don't think he was killed by Lilith, however. I think Lilith found out that her husband discovered this huge secret. Command found out. offed him, and Lilith is desperately trying to make sure her daughter, who she knows is fucking brilliant, we know that from chapter 1, she's trying to make sure her daughter doesn't uncover the same mystery just like her dad did and gets offed as well. So I think that she was this is where my headcanon is right now, is that she's trying to save her by putting her in the writer's quadrant so that she can't put on her Violet Brainiac hat. Now, someone, I looked it up, I desperately looked it up, I could not find the credit, I'm so sorry, said that the storm was actually sent by Lilith, but to calm her down, because in that section, Violet's inner monologue is like, the storm opens up and I feel myself calming down. It's something along those lines. And since also Violet mentions that Violet's dad, as Violet's like remembering things that he said that Violet was always the best of her father and her mother. So I do think that her mother, meaning here, like her bravery, her willing to see what's good and fight for it. But I do think she's going to be a very morally gray character. I don't think she's good. Look at Xaden's back. We know she's not good. But I do think her intentions in the long run are going to be very Snape-esque.
Well, and here's another theory that I've seen floating around too. She, meaning Lilith, could have also known about the looming dangers with the increased venom attacks and the wards faltering, and she wants her daughter to have the best chance at survival, so that's why she goes and puts her in the writer's quadrant so that her daughter Violet will bond with the dragon and have better protection and better training to face what Lilith knows is coming. Of course, there's also the big theory that she could be a full-blown double agent, and she's secretly working with the rebellion, making sure that they have the supplies that they need to get it to the Griffin Riders, that she knows that Brennan is alive. My guess is that she's less Snape and less of like that full-blown double agent and more so of a Dumbledore who's, like playing chess while everyone else plays checkers. That's how I could describe her.
I could see that. I do think that no matter what, I think she's working alone. I personally do not think she's working with the rebellion in a direct way. I don't think she knows that Brennan is alive. The reason I lean towards Snape is because Snape, he's such a tragic character because he is so alone. I mean, no matter what side he's on, everyone fucking hates him. And I do think that's going to be very similar with Lilith, where she is very lonely. I do think she's going to be a very tragic character in the series.
I don't know if I agree with that, but not in a bad way, but just after what she's done to Xaden, I don't see her being so much a tragic character but she definitely will be a very complicated one who is morally gray, who I think too is essentially working alone, has her own secret agenda here. We of course have to talk about the very popular theory too, that she is one of the big bad guys pulling the strings, and there are plenty of supporting points to this as well. On our Fourth Wing survey that you can also take in our show notes here, I think a quarter of the people, or even more than that, they think that she is full-blown bad guy, while a quarter of the people think that she's full-blown agent, and then about half of the people think that she's kind of somewhere in the middle there. But the supporting points that she is one of the big bad guys is that we know that there's far more to her and Xaden's history than Violet currently knows. Yes, she opposed that the children of the rebellion leaders shouldn't be forced to watch their parents' executions, but I think it's safe to assume that she is personally responsible for Xaden's 107 scars and more. Like, we've talked a lot about that's just scratching the surface. I really do believe that. It's also highly possible that she is the one who poisoned her husband and had him killed because he was the one who was too close to the truth. And then she sent Violet to the writer's quadrant anticipating that she would die. The deadly storm during the parapet, it would fit in perfectly with this theory that she was trying to get her daughter offed before she even could start. Amber in an email summarized it really well. She, meaning Lilith, cares more for her country than her family. We have to bring up that theory. Again, like you, Nicole, I'm not in one camp strongly one way or the other. There's so many possibilities, but I do also believe, like I said earlier, that she is ultimately working on her own. But
Agreed. Another question revolving around Violet's family is Violet's dad really dead, or is he alive? I am firmly in the camp that he is dead. We had one surprise, like, oh, he's not dead. Like, congratulations, here you go. Moment with Brennan. And I think 2 would be a little bit like, okay, like, we already got that Band-Aid pulled off, Plus, like, the mysteries that he left with, Feathertails, with the note in the Fables of the Baron, like, it's all just too delicious. And if he was alive, I just feel like that dramatic tension would be lost.
Absolutely. Like, I'm just nodding my head along. Like, I absolutely agree with you. Violet, she was so close with her dad, and we can assume that they spent a lot of time together in his final days. ways. But I will say this, I love Pipsqueak 11's theory that Lilith felt he was getting too close to the truth and had Brennan give her something to poison him enough to look dead so Lilith could sneak him out into the rebellion area. I find that very fun, but I do highly suspect Lilith was either behind his deteriorating health/death or knew the reason why and then tried to protect Violet. I really do think, and I will say hope, that he is dead. So we've danced around this a little bit. Let's address the next question. Was Violet's dad part of the rebellion?
I'm going to do such a half-ass answer and say maybe, but I think he could have been working as a scribe, but on the outside. And I could see like the argument for him like leaking info out. However, I really love the idea of him just like uncovering these mysteries on his own, like almost like a little researcher in his lab in the archives, and just like, oh my gosh, this, that, and the other. And he maybe was like just about to go over to the rebel side, you know, like when Violet discovers his note in the Fables of the Baron when she's with Xaden in a room, she says like he got really cryptic in the last few years after Brennan died. That to me is just like cementing like he was killed. He knew some shit that leadership did not like. But I do think that he was just about to go over to the rebel side. I don't think he knew Brennan was alive personally. Maybe. I'm leaning towards no, though. The main reason I don't think he was part of the rebellion is because there's a lot of wink, wink, hint, hint moments from the marked ones that they know Brennan. You know, Liam almost literally verbally spews it out at the reunification party. But there's nothing that says any of them would know her dad.
I absolutely agree with that. So we can wonder if he shared his findings with Brennan, and that's a contributing factor to Brennan's switch. Like the timing of his research and Brennan's seeming death, definitely align, and then his health deteriorating after Brennan. Like there's too many timeline consequences here for it to actually be a consequence. So very similar to you, Nicole, I'm leaning towards her dad wasn't necessarily on one side or the other. He was ultimately on the side of knowledge and truth, and that's what his focus was. You know, would uncovering the truth eventually send him to the rebellion side? Possibly, probably. But I also wonder if he knew or at least suspected the existence of Venom because of everything he taught Violet growing up, including the Fables book, and to remember who's writing the history. He made that very clear to her as she was growing up about pay attention to who is writing history. I think that he definitely knew a lot. However, does that mean that he was just firmly on the rebellion side? Not necessarily. I think that that's different from just knowing and believing in knowledge and truth.
Well, and I love that so much more because then it's not like if they're good, they're on the rebellion side. If they're bad, they're on the Navarian side. Like I love it when it's so in the middle, so morally gray. I think that that's going to be a very common theme with a lot of people in this book.
I absolutely agree.
See Xaden Ryerson.
Yeah, right. Or I think Mira might be another character who's really teetering back and forth with that too. Okay, rounding this out here, what do we think that Violet's dad's relationship was with their mom?
I really do think they were in love. It was stated in chapter 1. I don't think that would have been there if it weren't true. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
The fact that they were in love makes, assuming that they were indeed in love, it makes Lilith's character all the more complicated and layered. And to me, that's really a better storytelling tactic than just making her the big bad guy who killed her husband, you know, and who's a big villain here. Like, I hope I don't eat my words here. Like, we'll love whatever you do with Lilith's character, Rebecca. I do believe that it's just better storytelling to make it complicated, to make her have been indeed in love with her husband there.
So similarly, is Lilith our Dumbledore while Colonel Atos, Dane's dad, is actually our Snape character?
First of all, I love these questions that we're getting that are so referencing Hogwarts. Like, you guys know
I know, they know
well.
us.
And these questions are still going through Whoopity Scoop Poop and Pipsqueak here. So we're still crediting them with these questions. So is Lilith our Dumbledore while Colonel Atos is actually our Snape character? I would be absolutely shocked, and not in a good way, if Dane's dad was secretly on the good side. Again, this goes back to the storytelling here. The way that Dane drinks the Kool-Aid, it can only come from a lifetime of hearing how Navarre are the good guys. That is how he and Violet grew up at their family tables, talking about how good Navarre is, right? Like, that's obvious. I think that this is very much a like father, like son situation. And Dane's dad, you know, he is a nice guy on the outside. We've talked about that. but he didn't get to his position of power by being the dad next door. I think that the exact same thing could be said for Dane as he's rising within the quadrant ranks too.
I agree completely. I really don't think that Dane's dad is going to be good. There was such like beautiful irony in the fact that when we meet him in Fourth Wing, he's like, yeah, like nice flight lines, Violet. Gotta. You know, like he's very dad. And then he like does this like 180 for us as a reader and sends Xaden and his crew to their deaths. I think it's what makes Lilith's possible goodness even more dangerous for her. If Colonel Atos, someone she works with very directly, is so, now I'm not going to say pure, maybe I will say more pure evil. Like, I don't think that she is working with him in any way. I think they very much have their own agendas. And I do think the more and more I ponder it, if you will, I do think that Colonel Atos is going to be one of the big bad characters of this book. Do I think he's going to be the new Vice Commandant? I'm not sure. I said in the bonus episode that I wouldn't like him to be the new Vice Commandant because I want a new character. I'm more 50-50 on it now. Would I be mad? Probably not, because I do think that he's going to be a really interesting villain. But I think that there's no possible way he can be a good guy.
I agree.
Yeah.
So now let's move on to Andarna and Taryn and dragons as a whole. Lots and lots of questions here. So Nicole emailed us asking, do you think Andarna will bond with her mate and that dragon's rider will subsequently be linked to Violet as well? Nicole goes on to say, I keep having a reoccurring nightmare that it'll be Kath. So thankfully, I don't think that's likely, but imagine the drama. Hashtag God fucking damn it, Dane.
Yes. So I definitely don't think it's going to be Kath. I could see another dragon rider tie into this as a possibility. You know, like if Andarna bonds with a mate, then Violet will have an open pathway to talk to another person. I could see that drama being delicious, but I don't think it's likely. Taryn and Sigale's bond is so deep and so rare. Mates are very rare in this world when it comes to dragons. And that is one of the reasons I don't see Andarna finding one. I also just think that Andarna is such an entity on her own. I do think that her and Violet are going to have a very deep connection in the future books. Like, you know, you've talked about that on the show, Lex. I'm 100% in the same camp as you. Plus, like, she's just so spunky. She's, you know, very much that teenager energy. She's very Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon. I really don't see her having a love interest. I see her relationship interest in this book actually being Violet, not in a smooch way, but in a, this is deep friendship. That's how I see it.
Gosh, I don't know if we've ever agreed so much with each other.
I know, this is so exciting.
Episode. This is another reason why I really do see Andarna and Violet just being so extra close. You know, Taryn has Sigale, but Andarna and Violet, they have their very own special emotional connection. Like, yes, Violet has Xaden. She has major trust issues with him right now. So I think book 2 will also be really important and essential for Andarna and Violet's bond to really grow and strengthen and deepen. Continuing on with our conversation about Andarna, we got asked this question several times. So I'm so sorry. I don't have the credit right here in front of me. I'm sorry. Why did Andarna grow so much in 3 days at the end? Woo! Why indeed?
So I know that there's a lot of theories going around about how Andarna grew so fast. One of the biggest ones that we've received is that Andarna stopped time to help her grow so much in such a short period of time. I mean, 3 days have gone by and she's quote fucking huge now. I personally do not see this happening because we see what happens in Fourth Wing when she stops time for a couple of seconds. There's no way she'd be able to stop time for a year plus without absolutely destroying herself. So I do think 2 things instead. I think 1, she either used so much of her power and that somehow helped her grow faster by just like outpouring over and over and over again. Or 2, this is kind of actually or 2, they're right now near the crystallized gems being in Orisha. I think the proximity of that magic might have helped her grow way faster.
Exactly. So also, like, I just want to point out the fact that it's Xaden who says Andarna is quote unquote fucking huge when he's directly and indirectly bonded to 2 of the largest dragons. That must mean that Andarna is like Taryn size, right? Like, Xaden has a different subjective idea of what a huge dragon is because he's around huge dragons all the time, and he is categorizing Andarna as this. So he, in my opinion, he is putting her at the same degree of hugeness as like Taryn and Sigale. So I'm really interested to see how that works. Did her ancestry have anything to do with her fast growth? I'm gonna guess not.
Are you saying that Andarna is royal, Lex?
I absolutely think she is, but I don't think that that's necessarily ties into this here. I really do agree with the idea that she's used her time, like her power, and it has consequences. And it's almost like because time stopped, now it is speeding up so fast. I think that that's kind of the more, I'll say, comparable theory to the time traveling theory. And let's also remember that in October, Andarna was 2 years old and she would be fully grown within a few years. And now when they're in Orisha, it's something like June. So it's been about 9 months, almost a whole year. And there's no commentary throughout the book of her size. The fact that she could keep up more with flying might allude to her growing and getting stronger, but it's never outright stated. It's even said that she's the size of a griffin, which, at the very end of the book, which griffins are about the third of the size of a regular sized dragon. I don't know what Andarna was, prior to that to compare how much she had grown, but that is a size distinction we have there. No matter what, Andarna should be coming close to getting full grown, or at least growing, like she's a teenager kind of growing. Was for some reason she not growing at Basgiath? Like when she went to Orisha, did it somehow magically all catch up with her? Could this possibly be in reference to her first home, where it's like not actually the veil, and when she gets close to her first home, like she grows? I have no idea. I'm just spitballing here.
Photo Book GK on Instagram said, how do you think Violet is going to explain Andarna getting bigger when she heads back to Basgiath in Iron Flame, especially since there's only a handful of people who know she's a baby? This was such a good question, and I had not thought about this in the slightest.
Really? Oh my gosh, I literally stay awake at night thinking about this. And even with that, like, my honest answer is I have no fucking clue. Like, I don't. Like, I am stumped on this one because that is not an answer that I want to accept for myself here. Like, let's spitball here again. And Darna wasn't around much in the early days of her and Violet's bond, before she started learning to keep up and getting her part there with the saddle. It wasn't really a big deal that she wasn't around to anybody else, so it was okay and I'll say acceptable that she could stay hidden, and she just, like, not making an appearance, it wasn't raising any suspicion. So maybe now that she's big and the dangers of being a baby are gone, it's not so much of a concern. Could she stay hidden? I don't think so. I think that she has to go to Basgiath at some point, which again, now that maybe because she's now big and the dangers of being a baby are gone, it's not such a concern to protect that hatchling secret. As far as we know, no one else knows about the time stopping, which is gone now that she's grown. So again, like, that same concern and reason for keeping the secret isn't there in the same way now that she is grown. They're not afraid of leadership learning and finding out about the powers. So I don't know how they'd explain that, but it might just be it doesn't matter so much anymore, so we can just keep moving on with the story.
True. I could see something around the lines of, like, she might just be chilling also back at Orisha while Taryn and Violet go back to Basgiath. Personally, I'm not really leaning towards this. One, it would weaken her bond with Andarna, and we've talked about how we do think Andarna and her are going to have a stronger bond than her and Taryn. And if she does go back for a third year, which I personally don't think she will be, but if she does, there's no way she can avoid Andarna for 2 years. And I would also be just generally sad if we didn't get way more Andarna. And also, I think of the 2 dragons that would stay back in Orisha, it would make sense for Taryn. I do wonder if Taryn is going to be flying back and forth between Sigale and Violet, especially if Violet is fucking pissed at Xaden, if she's just going to send Taryn and go back and forth, because she also has Andarna, so she can now practice flying and flight maneuvers and stuff with Andarna. I don't see that happening, because then we'd miss out on all the delicious drama between her and Xaden, but who knows? I'm truly stumped on this question. I have no fucking clue.
And just another thing to point out is that nobody in the book seems concerned with it either. Like, no one in the book, why is no one in the book worried about this? Sigale, during their family meeting, when we got the big dragon info dump, like, she did not mention this looming issue. Taryn at no point has mentioned it. Violet, like, when she's been thinking about her father's feathertail research, like, there's been so many opportunities for there to be a narrative concern or even thought towards, oh my gosh, what's going to happen once when she does get bigger. And the fact that none of them have even thought about it makes me wonder if, again, it's not going to be a big deal once when she is grown up.
So following up with that, Tori Grovas on Instagram asks, what do you think would happen to Violet if Taryn died? Would her bond with Andarna change anything / save her? I hate this question, and nothing against you, Tori Grovas. It's truly just that I will cry so hard if either dragons die. However, that being said, I really see that happening. I see that being, like, the whole thing of this book is a dragon without a rider is a tragedy. A rider without a dragon is dead. What if a dragon dies and a rider lives. Like, what if that happens? I think that might be one of the big, like, moments of the book.
Yep, I think it will definitely be one of the big shockers of the series. Like, everything we know points to if your dragon dies, the rider dies. And like Nicole said, Violet is different. And so I don't think that if one of her dragons dies, she's going to die. Her life is still tethered to another. I do believe it could greatly weaken her, like Taryn was weakened after Naolan died. But I don't think she would die like what happened to Liam, right? I think that Liam's death was major foreshadowing to set us up for a big plot twist, you know? Violet lives when one of her dragons dies, when we've seen what should happen very early on in the series.
And I do think that a dragon dying, whether it's Taryn or Andarna, I do think it would be Taryn of the two. Because, oh my God, it just hit me. What if, because if Taryn dies, then Sigale dies, and Xaden dies, and that's like how Xaden... I hate that I just thought of that. I'm going to weep into this microphone. I can't think about that too much. I do think that if this does happen, I'm like crying, Jesus.
I think this is where her second signet is going to come into play.
Do we have a question about that? I don't remember writing an
answer.
answer.
We do not have a question about Violet's signet. I think that is one thing that we were not asked.
I personally do not see Violet's second signet being resurrection. There's a lot of evidence pointing to the fact that it is. The resurrection video on TikTok that went mega viral that you guys are awesome and tagged us in has a lot of points to it. And if that is how Xaden is brought back, would I complain? Absolutely not. No, sir, I would not. But if this does happen where one of her dragons dies, again, thinking it will most likely be Taryn, I do see that being a book 4 or 5 thing. So I don't think we're going to have to deal with that major heartbreak for a while.
Let's talk about something that did already happen here and ask a clarifying question. Eldred.Laura on Instagram asked, I want to know how Taryn knew Violet was being attacked while she was sleeping in her room. That's a good question.
So I think that Taryn knows about Violet's goings on while she's awake. So my guess is that it's just he's easily able to tell when she's also unconscious. I also see this being really handy for warriors in battle. If they're in the middle of a fight and a dragon's able to be like on your left, that's really handy dandy. In my opinion, this is also a really cool world building tool. So brava, Rebecca, for many things, but that definitely.
I also wonder if it's a reflection on the strength of Taryn and Violet's bond, like even this early on in their relationship. We get a few hints that others and their dragons don't have the kind of bond where they're always talking to one another like Taryn and Violet are. So I wonder if it's because Taryn is so powerful, he has a stronger sense of when it comes to Violet and their surroundings. Like just wanted to throw that possibility out there too.
Totally. I think that's highly likely. Carolina Girl 117 on Reddit asks, do the dragons know what power their rider will have? They have the power to withhold a gift until their rider is ready. So how much do they know?
So because the signet manifests based on a person's unique chemistry and the dragon's powers, there is no way of knowing what their signet will be, even for a dragon to know. So my guess is that the dragon can at least anticipate the level of power that the signet will have, or even the rarity based on just the power and strength of the dragon, but not necessarily what the signet is going to be.
I mean, for example, when Violet wields lightning for the first time, Taryn is like #1 hype girl and is like, lightning wielder! Like, he's excited, but he also does seem surprised.
I wonder if he is surprised, because I wouldn't be surprised if he also got the feel from it like Xaden did during their first kiss. Like, I wonder if he sensed that crackle and this was like the confirming, yes! Huzzah! Right?
Yet another thing that fucking Taryn held from Violet. I'm at the point of the book right now where I'm mad at him. I'm a little mad at him.
Brit_Bolt22 asked one of the biggest questions of the book. Were any of the parents of the rebellion kids writers? And if so, what happened to their dragons? What happened indeed to the rebellion leaders' dragons?
My guess is that, like when any writer dies, they mourned their riders for a while. They flew around singing their sad dragon songs. And then they eventually decided to, or will decide to, it's not been a super long time since they were murdered, rebond. However, fewer and fewer dragons are choosing to bond. So these could be some of the dragons of the rebellion parents, and they're fucking pissed. And so they don't want to go back and bond with people at Basgiath.
And there were 68 of them. So that's not that's almost
like a full year of first years. Almost.
That's like 2/3 of a class right there. So that's a pretty good amount of dragons there. There are so many questions around this. Like, how would it work with the dragons all together again at the Vale, for instance? This is again going right back to what is the dragon political dilemma here? What are some of the dragons on the Navarian side? Are some of them on Pormiel's side or on just their own rebellion side? I don't know. There's so many nuances that we just don't know yet. And I think that this plays into it a lot. Did the dragons fight against each other in the rebellion 6 years ago? How does that work with the dragons? They have such a strong willpower and they don't just blindly follow their riders to go up against dragons that they know. What if the dragon disagrees with their rider on whichever side that they're on? What if the dragon and their bonded rider are on different sides? I don't know how that would even be possible. So anyway, I'm going down a total question rabbit hole here, but I'm going to keep going. Did these dragons just say peace out and not go back to the Vale when their riders died and they went and stayed at the headquarters in Orisha? Is it possible to bond with someone without going through the full process at Basgiath? Are these dragons bonding with other people elsewhere outside of Basgiath with the revolution? I just think that all of these questions, and their subsequent answers, whatever they may be, it all hints to a bigger picture with the dragons and the current unrest. Again, there's that Empyrean promise with the name of the series. What I personally think is that what Nicole said, that they are unwilling to bond, and that is one of the contributing factors to that. Or maybe the other dragons aren't letting them bond right now because they don't trust their judgment. Or maybe we'll learn that some of these dragons who are bonding new people, they were part of the rebellion. Maybe some of our side characters like Riddick or Rhiannon's dragons, they again, totally, I don't know, but it's fun to think about.
You're blowing my mind right now, Lexi. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Oh, so many questions. Okay. Second, Signets with marked ones. So Neen_Erin, NYN_Erin, asked on Reddit, Liam's signet is Farsight, but in the fight against the Venom, Violet sees him wielding spears of ice. What are your thoughts on this? Let me tell you, Neen, I got a lot of thoughts on this. I have so fucking many thoughts on this. So the meaning of his dragon's name, Day, is ice. It's ice. Is it part of the second signet rumor? Did Rebecca make a mistake? Absolutely not. She didn't. She never makes mistakes like this. No, this is so on purpose and it's supposed to make us go crazy.
It's just in one small little half a sentence, it is hinting more about the marked ones that we don't know yet. And so I'm just going to read this line here because we've had a lot of people comment, a lot of confusion about this. So we're just going to take it straight from the text. On my ebook, it starts at page 589. I have no idea what that is on the physical book. Quote, Taryn puts us into position, hovering about 20 feet above ground as Liam flies for the griffins above us, wielding spears of ice into the injured wyvern's throat. So
this is 100% Rebecca saying neon sign, not even neon sign because it's so fucking subtle, but saying there's something fishy here. I've read this book 4 or 5 times in the last 2 months, and I never caught this until you mentioned something about it, Lex, and I saw it on a social media post. But this is Rebecca saying there's something fishy here. We need to keep an eye out for this. But she did it in the most genius way of dropping it in a half a sentence that no one fucking caught.
There's definitely more to the marked one's power than we know. And it's got, I believe that it's absolutely got to do with the rebellion relic that Coda gave to them. Does General Melgan's dragon know what he did? We don't know yet. Again, it seems silly that he wouldn't know what he did because it's channeling, the way that dragon magic works. It would be channeling from that relic. But I also just do not get good guy vibes from Coda. I don't feel like this is something that he would have done on purpose just to stick it to the man because he is part of the man, right?
Do you think he's in the background just being shit, fuck, oh my God, shit, fuck, how do I tell Melgren shit, fuck,
the guy who sent the wrong email to everybody at the company. But so this poses just the bigger question that everybody is asking. Does this line that we hear about Liam being able to wield 2 different signets mean that all marked ones can wield 2 signets?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Well, so for instance, we know that Imogen can wipe memories and she's super fast.
Wait, really quick question. I thought fast and speed were lesser magics.
They are, and we talked about this even when, I don't know if it was exactly when this came up, but we were even agreeing that it would be kind of lame if that was her second like, I don't consider speed, if it is going to be your like signet, you got to be like the Flash kind of speed. But I don't think she is, because it's paired that she is at the same category of speediness as Xaden and Garrick. So what I think is that it's actually, they have their primary signet. So for Liam, it would be Farsight; for Imogen, it would be Wiping Memories, etc. And then they either have like amplified lesser magic, which would be like being fast or whatnot, or low key a second signet. For instance, Liam being able to wield ice. Ice is considered a fairly common signet. Maybe it's that they can wield a second signet, but it's just a more common, I'll say, lesser of the second signets. No offense to you, Riddick, my man. But anyway, that there's again lots of questions around that. And that's my personal take.
So do you think that Xaden's second signet is speed?
No. I don't think that that would be its second signet. I think that the speed is a lesser magic, but that also doesn't explain what happened with Liam, unless it's either amplified lesser magic and slash or being able to wield a more common second signet that's like your, again, like your secondary signet to complement your primary.
I do wonder in regards to Imogen, because it's stated, I know at least twice in the book about her speed. Once it's connected to Xaden, and it's like Xaden, she's really fast or something along those lines. But then the other time, it's just like flat out, she's really fast. Golly, I don't know. I definitely don't think, if they have two signets, I definitely do not think Xaden's second signet is speed, because like, he's our main dude. He's not going to have a same second signet as two other people in this story. There's no fucking way.
But again, that goes back to, it was comparing her speed to Xaden's speed. What I think it is it's more of Imogen amplifying her speed and kind of almost calling it that her signet, so that it can divert attention from her mind wiping signet. Because I've talked a lot about that in the last few episodes too. With Imogen has a mind wiping signet, like that should not be allowed. Especially because we don't think that it includes touch. So what if leadership doesn't know that that's her signet, and instead she really leans on her signet being speed?
What if her second signet is being able to amplify lesser magic, which is why she's doing it so much with Xaden and Garrick?
Maybe. Well, and then of course then there's the crystallized gems that maybe the marked ones have access to, and maybe that's why they can amplify their lesser magic, and it actually doesn't have anything to do with the rebellion relic.
If we don't get this answer in Iron Flame, I'm going to like just flip a table. I don't know how else
I'm tired of theorizing about this, and I want the goddamn answer.
Same. I think that there's going to be some big major secret coming out of the woodwork. Minimum one. I think we're going to have multiple in Iron Flame, and I could throw up thinking about it. I'm so fucking ready. Let's move on to Dane. Theorizing. Here we go.
God fucking damn it, Dane.
God fucking damn it, Dane. We have to have it once an episode. MP asks, how will Dane react to his dad working to take out Violet, the woman he loves? Could this finally crack him into seeing sense? Is this the root of Rebecca's sympathy for him? Lexi's shaking her head no. Also, we don't know what Dane's dad's signet is. True. I mean, we did already kind of get a big download of how he reacted to his dad doing this. And also, I don't think it was his dad leading the charge here. I think his dad and Dane kind of worked together about this Athbane situation. But literally, might I remind us all of, I'll miss you, Violet. And that was fucking everything. He was like, my best friend of my entire life. I'll miss you. Peace out. God, I hate him so much. After he spent an entire fucking book to keep her safe, him just being like, you choose him. I'm not the guy you choose. That hurts my ego. This is such a fucking guy move. Such a dickwad guy move. I truly do not understand his logic here. He's trying to keep her safe this entire book. And then he says 4 words to her and then peace out, Squirrel Scout.
I think it makes absolute sense because it's not just him saying those words. It is exactly what happened before that. It is Violet choosing Xaden. And it's not just choosing him like to be in bed with. She's choosing sides. There is no black and white when it comes to choosing Xaden. And she knows that. She has known that there have been multiple instances before this where she knows that, and she's trying to kind of figure it out internally. And this is where she makes that decision. She plants her feet in the sand and says, I am with him. And Dane, that's a slap in the face to Dane. I'm not sympathizing with the guy for what he does, but that would be a big slap in the face. I mean, she should have absolutely seen it coming, but I think that's where it just kind of snaps for him. And it's like, all right, well, there's no turning back here. And this is what's going to happen. And if you side with him, then you're part of the problem too.
To answer Empy's question, could this finally crack him him into seeing sense? I do not think so. However, there is this big moment for Dane in Montserrat where he finally starts to realize that he's not being told everything. So I don't think that's a crack for him to finally see sense. I think it's like a teeny tiny little
seed,
it's a little seed. It's a little seed that we just need to, water and grow, bitch, grow, to quote Lexi from the podcast. I do wonder, however, if Violet is going to try to convince him to see reason. I don't really think it's going to happen in Iron Flame because, like I've mentioned, I do think he's going to get worse before he gets quote unquote better. I do think she's going to be pissed at him in Iron Flame. Eventually, could I see her trying desperately to make him see reason? Possibly.
Yeah, I don't see Violet trying to help him see the light anytime soon. Their relationship's already broken. She knows it, the reader knows it, Dane knows it, everybody knows it. And so I think she's going to come in really pissed off. Now, whether she's outwardly pissed off at him, that's one of the big questions about going into Iron Flame. Is she going to kind of play dumb, for instance? I don't know yet.
Oh, God, I don't know either. But to address a second part of the question, which is Rebecca Yarros' sympathy towards Dane, I personally think that her sympathy and a small sliver of my heart, the smallest, 0.5% sliver of my heart, has a little bit of sympathy for him in this way that he has been so brainwashed. He is so convinced, and he is the product of what people have made him to be. Now, does that excuse him? No. Do not get me wrong. I hate Dane. I literally quote, God fucking damn it, Dane, every fucking episode. But I do think that's the root of Rebecca's sympathy for him, is in the fact that he's brainwashed.
And he was originally trying to save Violet. Even if he did it for all the wrong reasons that we can all feel, we know that Dane knows more than Violet does about Xaden. So there could be something with Xaden's secrets there that will show Dane really was trying to keep Violet safe from him. I do believe that in his own perspective, that is what he was trying to do. And so Rebecca Yarros might just be sympathizing for his character who was trying to do the right thing, but the right thing was what we as readers, and Violet is what skewed. It was not the right thing for her. It was not what she needed here. I'm grasping at straws here, trying to sympathize for the guy right now. I also have to say this. I honestly don't think Rebecca expected for an entire, very passionate fandom to rise up against this one character in book one. She's the only one who knows what's going to happen. So for her to be like, whoa, I can totally be like, wow, that snowballed really quickly. And it's like, oh, crap. They're going to hate me, huh?
But that's why I say, I do think that he's going to get a redemption arc. We're going to talk about this later, but I think that it's going to be the redemption arc of the fucking century. Someone related it to Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender level of redemption arc. And I'm like, I would be so here for that. If it's like that, chef's kiss. And then the last part of this question is Dane's dad's signet. I have no idea, but something deep in my gut, especially, I do believe he's going to be a big bad character. I think it's going to be horrific. I feel like it's going to be something with interrogation. I mean, Dane's going to be used in interrogation for figuring all that kind of stuff out. But I could see his dad being we've talked about torture on the podcast. I don't know if it'll be that, but I do think it's going to be something to match interrogation, because I could see Dane and his dad interrogating one of our characters at some point in this.
Like I said, like father, like son. On that same note, I could see his signet being something similar to Dane's, especially, related to information and knowledge. Think about it. Dane's dad, he's the general's right hand. He got to that specific position of power somehow. And I really do think that it goes back to knowledge. Just like how Dane is rising up in the ranks in the quadrant, it's because of what he's capable of. It's because of the knowledge that he is able to extract and possess. I think he is definitely one of the interrogators, now that you say that.
I just feel like it's going to come out in a moment of oh, when you read a book and it's oh my, what? It's horrific. I feel like it's going to be that level of horror.
Well, and then John from email, he asked, so what do you think Violet's mom's reaction will be when she realizes that Dane's dad set Violet and Xaden up?
I'm going to come at this from I do believe Lilith is that morally gray character and is trying to protect her daughter. I think she's going to feign indifference. I don't think she's going to really, I mean, see her backstory and see her resume of being a good mom right now. I don't think anything's going to happen. I think she's going to have a very brutally cold attitude towards her, especially if she's playing on the side of I need to be General Sorrengail. I could see her being even terrible to Violet. She knows what happened.
I don't think her mom's reaction is going to play a big role whatsoever. I know that might sound weird, but I just don't think that that's going to, because there is just going to be an assumed indifference there. And I don't think that it's going to be this big reveal either, that it's like, oh my God, everybody, guess what Dane's dad did, right? Like,
No.
I think it is going to be very swept under the rug. And our characters are going to have to move on from it, or at least be perceived like they've moved on from it pretty quickly, just to move the story along. Yeah.
I don't think we're going to get a whole lot of Lilith in Iron Flame. I think her big flushing out of her characters are going to be in the back half of the series.
See, like what I was saying at the top of this episode, I think that we're going to get a lot more of Violet's family dynamic, including Lilith. And maybe not like her whole story, but at least a little bit more of her.
I think it's going to be trickled.
Yeah.
We're going to get some tricklings, but I think it's going to be more about Brennan and her dad next book more than Lilith.
Yes. So it'll be more about the other characters of the family. And then, of course, that'll come right back to Lilith. So we'll be able to make some good perception. Yeah, okay.
She'll be the missing puzzle piece.
Case Maryland asks, one of the big questions, and we've already been referencing it quite a bit at this podcast, do you think Dane is going to get a redemption arc? And to piggyback off of that, a few others are asking if there's going to be a love triangle with him.
I definitely do not think there's going to be a love triangle with him. I don't see Violet ever having, like, she already didn't have feelings for him. I don't think anything could convince her to have any kind of romantic feelings towards Dane going forward. However, I do think that there is definitely going to be a redemption arc for Dane. I've mentioned this several times in the episode. I don't think he's coming out of this world alive. I do think he's going to die in this series. I think that that's going to be like his big final moments of some like big old sacrifice. But I see that happening in like book 3 or 4. I don't think it's going to be the final moment of the series, but I could see him dying in 3 or 4 after having a big redemption arc, which is what's making me think it's going to be leaning more towards 4, because I think we'll need, especially given how passionate this fandom is about hating him, I think we're going to need a while of a redemption arc to really draw it out and make it worthwhile. I don't know if that's the right word, but I do trust Rebecca to handle this in a very well done way. I really do trust her.
I agree with you. And like, so, you know, like when we think about redemption arcs, I think about 2 in particular here. One is that I'm not going to actually call it a redemption arc. It's called the Gollum effect, where he didn't necessarily get a redemption arc, but his character was still needed for that final moment. He needed to die in a very meaningful way, and I could see that happening with Dane, and then that could essentially be his redemption arc, even if he emotionally didn't redeem himself, but like just the way that everything falls into place in those final moments. That's how it works. I will say, I really hope his redemption arc is not as painful and drawn out as Theon's redemption arc from Game of Thrones. Yeah. Oof, that was a tough one. I hope it's not like that.
If he just kicks someone in the balls and that's like his redemption arc, I'm going to throw a book off a cliff. I don't think that's going to happen.
All right. And then Jasmine430 asks, is Dane really reading Violet when he touches her face? Dane said that he has to touch people's temples when he first told her. And when he's cupping her jaw, it's not touching her temples to read her.
Yes, he definitely is reading her memories. And we got this question so many times, and we get this a lot in our comment section whenever we post a video about us talking about Dane. They're like, well, he's not touching her temples. I want everyone to take your hand, just take your hand and put it on the side of your face, like cupping it. Your fingers are touching your temples. Like, I mean, I have big hands, like monstrous hands.
I don't. I have tiny hands, so mine can still touch it.
How are we related? Like, if I'm laying here, and especially if I'm cupping my face with both hands, which this feels so weird. It's like squishing my face forward. My temples are being touched. So I do believe every time he cups her face, at least 99% of the time, I think there was one time in our God fucking damn it Dane section where I was like, I don't know if he is, but every other time we could basically guesstimate what he was reading. He's reading her memories. And that is such a very deliberate word. And it's used over and over and over again. Cups my face. Dane reaches out to cup my face, to cups my face over and over again.
And interestingly, when Xaden does a similar motion, it's called cradles her face or cradles. It is different language. Now he cups her in other ways.
Hey.
Other parts of her body and whatnot. But again, it's that deliberate, I really do think it's that deliberate use of cups her face. And every time that is said, it is a 99% possibility that he is reading her memories. To follow up on that, you know, I really am positive that he has to touch the person's temples to read their memories. There's a lot of speculation, and we definitely talked about it in the first episode when we were going through this scene when he was first sharing this information with Violet, that he's either lying, that he doesn't have to touch their temples, that he can just either touch their skin, or that his signet is adapting and continuing to manifest and grow more powerful to where he won't have to touch them whatsoever. On the note of him not having to touch them whatsoever, or even just touch them anywhere on their skin, I really think that even as powerful as his dad is, as fast as he's moving up in the ranks, he would be a serious security risk if it was not just being able to have to touch their temples. Like, and he is somebody who follows the rules too much, and he is too tight with leadership to be able to hide something like that. And also, just based on our discussion here moments ago about, having to cup her face, etc., it's very deliberate with cupping her face. Again, we keep reiterating that. And I think that is Rebecca saying, yeah, he does actually have to touch their temple. It is that promise that we can take that, at least from Dane, at face value.
Well, and every time he does cup her face, they're either just having finished up a conversation or actively talking about Xaden. And it's not when he's just like grabbing her like shoulders or stuff like that. Like, it's when he's cupping her face. I am also leaning towards he has to be touching the temples. I could not see a world where he would be able to live just like walking around being able to access people's memories with just like a little finger tap, I think it would have to be something like that.
And to that point too, I think that it doesn't extend to the mat either. But I will say, I do think that Xaden's crew is very, very aware not to get too close to Dane, because who knows what kind of instance Dane could come up with that. But for instance, I don't think that Dane is getting secret info from the smarked ones whenever he goes up on the mat with them.
He does say recent memories. He does say he's just learning how to get adept at his signet. I do think like him strengthening his signet is him going further and further back in memories. Towards the end of the book, like he touches Violet's face and learns about Athbean a month and a half after they've had the conversation about Athbean. So I think that his strengthening is going further and further back.
Yep. And possibly figuring out which memories too. There's a lot of questions about how is he able to do that.
His Google search.
Like, I really do think that that's a good analogy, where it's like he has to know what he's looking for, sort of thing.
And that's why he didn't find them fucking. I think that's why, is because he was searching for like what information has he given her, not like how many times has he made her wield lightning, if you know what I mean. Moving on to some theories about Imogen. Lexi, of course you wrote this in the outline. So Carolina Girl 117, again on Reddit, they came up with some solid theory questions. Asked, why was Imogen trying to kill Violet on their first assessing skills fight when Imogen should know her brother is still alive? There are theories that she knows Brennan and she is an integral part of smuggling weapons. So why try to kill Violet?
I think it all comes back to the timeline of who finds out what when. So I have no idea, but this is going to be my personal guess. So Imogen was aware of and probably involved since bonding with her dragon in her first year about the Griffin Flyer meetups, but she hadn't personally met Brennan yet or even knew about his involvement. The going off on these secret missions to go meet up and provide supplies for these Griffin Flyers is not the same as going to Arisha, like we can assume Liam and Xaden had to get to know Brennan, right? And I think this is also going off the idea that Brennan has been staying in Arisha. I think that's a pretty safe assumption there. So on assessment day, Imogen was probably working off the information that Sorrengails are indeed bad. I really do think that she believed that. She was not acting. She's not somebody who really comes off as a good actress. And she really was like, she wanted to kill Violet and asked like when they can do that. And that was Xaden really protecting Violet in that instance, because I think he knew about Brennan and he was certainly not going to go and kill Violet. And he was making sure his crew also didn't go and kill Violet. Imogen probably thought that Violet would be like Mira and their mom, even if she did know about Brennan's involvement. That's totally possible too.
Also, General Sorrengail literally killed Imogen's one of her parents, if not both, and the only family she's known. Even if she knew one Sorrengail and they were like, all right, with Brennan, that fury does not go away. That like want for revenge. I'm going to be straight up honest. I don't blame her for being furious. I don't blame, maybe, don't try to kill someone about it, but like, I don't blame her for being absolutely angry at Violet for something her mother did. It's a watermelon life. Amazing. Asked, what if Imogen wipes all of Violet's memories about Xaden to keep them safe? I'm going to just hand the mic to Lex for this one.
I was firmly in the camp that Imogen would wipe Violet's Arisha memories before they go back to Basgiath.
Was that a past tense?
Yes, because now I'm leaning more towards that she will use her shielding ability to block out against Dane. I don't raise your arms like that to me, like in Triumph, because I'm not fully fleshing this out right here. But there's too much foreshadowing that Violet has the strongest shields in her year. And what Xaden says at the end of the book about teaching her to shield against Dane, that is a very important line, right? That we have to take into consideration going into the next book here. I will also say, however, that when Xaden and crew are talking to the Griffin riders and the Griffin flyers are telling them more about the venom, Xaden stops her and says, if any of us know more, we are going to get interrogated, and that is bad. And so that means that their shields cannot block enough for an interrogation. So I don't think that they can trust their shields, including Violet's shields that they have to start building up to protect against Dane. I don't think they're going to need a plan B. They're going to need a safety net there. And I think that Imogen is going to come in as that safety net.
I still have a little bit of triumph in my heart. Just a smidgen.
I think that while first priority is going to be use your shields against Dane, but then secondary to that is like wink wink nudge nudge, like, hey Imogen, you should probably create like a backup plan here. I think that we'll learn that Imogen has been using her powers throughout Violet's first year more than we thought. Like, remember Montserrat? Like, I'm absolutely convinced that she used her powers with everyone there at Montserrat and nobody knew about it. And I wouldn't be surprised if Imogen still wipes a few key memories without Violet's knowledge, just Dane breaks through Violet's shield. And so like Violet might just not know about this safety net that Imogen has created. I think this is also just going to set up so many more trust issues that our whole crew is going to have to work through in Iron Flame.
So I am firmly like feet not even planted, feet buried in the belief that Violet is going to learn and perfect her shielding before going back to Basgiath. It's only 6 months at Basgiath in Iron Flame. My guess is that we're not in a rush to get back to Basgiath. She's mentioned it's only half of the school year. I think we're going to spend some time in Orisha at the beginning.
But they only have so many days before they have to get back to Basgiath.
I don't think it's going to be a long stretch.
And then school starts again, like within like only a few weeks after graduation.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's going to be a long stretch by any means. I don't think we're going to spend half the book at Orisha. I think it's going to be like, like maybe the first 50 to 100 pages. I think it's maybe not 100. Actually, that might be even a little long. But I do think it's going to be a chunk of time at Orisha before we go back to Basgiath. And I think that at that time, she's going to be training with Xaden. He's going to be donning his trainer's hat again. And she's going to learn how to shield and really train how to block Dane out. I think that's also going to be a lot of romantic tension between the two of them of like, I'm fucking pissed at you, but I have to learn how to do this from you. And Xaden's going to be trying to win her back. In Xaden's POV, Garrick says that's something you'll have to figure out and then teach her how to hide it from Atos if she chooses. He's talking to Xaden, so he's going to be teaching her how to hide it from Atos. I'm strongly assuming that is shielding. I would be so mad if Violet gets her memories wiped, especially from like if we're.
But we're not talking all memories. We're not talking everything about Xaden. It's like she doesn't know the guy. Like, no, I'm talking about very key bits and pieces.
But we are living in her head. And if we as readers just suddenly don't have that information, like if Violet's learning something and she's not able to tap into the information that we learned all of last book, for me as a reader, that would be infuriating.
But what if it's just the memory of it is gone, but the knowledge of it still stays? Remember how there's a theory about how she knows about Imogen's signet in the first place, that Imogen has been possibly wiping memories. And yeah, see, I got you there. Like just going off of that. So I agree with you that first focus is going to be shielding, but they cannot rely on that because Xaden and his crew don't rely on that. They make sure that they don't even know all of the information.
True.
So I think that's where Imogen is really going to have to come in. And they're going to be very, very strategic about what they take away.
I didn't think about her still having the knowledge of it, but the memory just being gone.
And that could be really interesting in like her narration where it's like, I know this, but I can't remember. Like, I could see some really cool writing and her trying to figure this out in her head.
God damn it. Yes. I'm not convinced. I'm saying this on the mic and for thousands of people to hear. I am not convinced. However, I understand your point of view much more and I'm more okay with it happening. That's my stance.
Okay. All right.
Can we go on to something happier that I can speak about?
Let's talk about what Nicole has been dying to talk about this whole podcast episode. Xaden and Violet. So Alex Anderson on TikTok asked if we're hoping for a mated bonds. You know, like what sort of drama do we think will be part of this romantic arc?
I'm just going to like crack my knuckles and get into this. So I think that betrayal is going to be the big drama arc with Xaden and Vi in Iron Flame, possibly continuing on forward. Like we've mentioned a few times in this podcast, I do think that we're going to be uncovering secret after secret after secret in Iron Flame. And that is going to be a big level of, holy shit, I thought I loved you. I thought I knew you. And who the hell are you? I think that's going to be a big part of this romantic arc between the two of them. However, something is bugging me and I don't know the answer to it, because in the new snippet excerpt, it's not even like a full excerpt, little snippet that we got from Rebecca Yarros, there's a note from Xaden that says, I'm still really damned angry with you. Why is he angry with her? Did she do something stupid and rash in Orisha? Is he mad at her for almost dying on him and she's like mad at him for that? Is he mad at her for her reaction after the Griffin writers and like being really angry with him, and so he's just choosing to be angry with her? Do you have an idea? What do you think he's mad at her about?
I have a feeling that we don't know fully, but just he could be mad at her for being mad at him.
True. That is a real feeling. That is a real. The amount of times I've just been like frustrated with Brett about something, and he's like, I'm just frustrated with you too. And I was like, why are you frustrated with me? He's like, because I have no reason to be mad at me. I love it. It's romantic drama. It's beautiful. But I do think that the drama of secrets is going to be the main theme between these two. Also, long distance is hard. Like anyone who has been in a long distance relationship knows the difficulty of that. And I think that that's going to be really hard next year, especially if, in my opinion, if Xaden can't go back to the Navarian side. Like he was supposed to survive war games. Is he going to be able to just like stroll up and Colonel Atos and General Sorengale are just like, what's up, Xaden? Like there's no way they're going to be like, you're alive? You were supposed to die. I could see a scenario, however, where Xaden, I mentioned this earlier, where Xaden gets captured and is interrogated by Dane and Dane's dad. And like that literally just makes me sick to think about it. But I could see this being like a huge rescue mission and also a big, I forgive you and I realize how stupid I was being moment between the two of them that makes them like come together. No matter what, I think that their makeup is going to happen in Iron Flame. I think it's going to be a big dramatic moment of the book.
Oh,
what
really?
Are your thoughts?
I see it being more of a slow burn, and then probably like something that be the straw that broke the camel's back, but in the opposite direction, like a good thing.
You know what? You say that. I think I would actually prefer that. I always love a slow burn, so that's actually more of what I would prefer. I'm realizing I did not answer the mating bond question of part of this. So I'm going to actually just go off my notes and say yes. I do pretty firmly believe that there's some kind of mates situation here. I do think that since we are not confirmed that mated bonds are here in the human world in this particular world that Rebecca's created, I think that there's some kind of magic at play or some kind of thing at play where the bond between Taryn and Sigale basically, for lack of a better term, leaks into Xaden and Violet. My only hole in my theory with that, though, is that there was a lot of fated mates foreshadowing before she ever bonded with Taryn. So I don't know about that. I do think that in some way, shape, or form, they're going to be mates. Do I think it's going to be right out stated, the word mates? I'm not sure, but it's something definitely deeper than love between these two that has them connected together.
I don't feel like it's necessarily magic. I think that this might be a little bit more of like I'll say soulmates versus like a mated bond, because again, I'm just going back to what we know, and the dragons are the ones who hold the magic. The dragons are the ones who are magical. That is part of the bond of the magic of these bonds, both for Sigale and Taryn and for the dragons and their riders and all of it. That is based off of magic. And Xaden and Violet individually, but without their dragons, do not have magic. Humans are normal in this world. So that is why I don't think that it's necessarily fated mates or like a magical element to this, like there is in other books and other universes. But I do agree that there is something much deeper than just that initial connection to them. It goes way more than just like, I'll call it surface level love and attraction.
I agree with you. And I will say this, that if it does turn out that mates are in human world too in the Empyrean series, I would not be mad about it in the fucking slightest. Fated mates is one of my favorite tropes. And if that happens, I would be just delighted.
So Tay Reads _ from Instagram asks, do you know Xaden will be the main love interest throughout all 5 books, or do you think we will meet someone new we haven't met yet? And again, more questions about Endgame related to that above question there.
So there's been a lot of speculation about a new romantic love interest, and I'm going to mainly save that for the next question that we have. I could see a spark with someone else, but I don't think we're going to have a triangle by any means. First and foremost, Rebecca doesn't love them. Rebecca has been out and about saying, I don't enjoy a love triangle, which the fans stood up and rejoiced at that. Also, and this was a big clue when I was listening to her interview with Jennifer L. Armentrout, Rebecca mentioned that she's never written a multi-book series where there's one main love interest. With that knowledge, I think I'm pretty confident in saying that they are going to be endgame. Now, does that mean endgame to the end of one of their lives? God, I hope not, but I definitely could see it happening, and I will be a fucking mess if that does happen. But I'm absolutely confident that no matter what, they are end game. Their dragons are bonded. You cannot get much more locked in than that. Like I kind of alluded to, I could see it where Xaden doesn't make it out of the series. If Taryn dies, Sigale dies, Xaden dies. I cannot overstate how fucking wrecked I will be. I literally wrote this in the outline. I'm tearing up writing this in the outline. Like I did not enjoy writing that. I do not enjoy thinking it, but this is also a book. This is a universe where dramatic and high tension things happen. It's not going to be hunky dory. I could see something about that happening. I mean, like the thing that really maybe not cements this for me, but really alludes it to me is in episode 6 and in episode 7, we're going to be talking about this too. We're starting a "you're going to be the death of me" count. That's terrifying, but that's also not an accident with how many times he says it in the series.
Yep. I'm nervous. And then Anna on TikTok asks, in the Iron Flame snippet, we're introduced to Eric. What if he's a soft launch for a secondary love interest? How would we feel about that?
So, like I said, I was going to talk about this more in this section. I do not think a secondary love interest is going to necessarily happen. I could see, however, a infatuation interest on Violet's part. And I'm not going to lie, a jealous Xaden, I would not be mad about that. I do think we have no idea who Arik is. Like, I'm going to just be straight up honest. It's like one half of a sentence just mentioning a name Arik. So this is total speculation. I'm getting more like ally vibes in my gut from it. Maybe he's a new Marked One first year and he's going to be like a Sloane friend or even a Sloane love interest. Would I be mad about a full-on second love interest for Violet? It would really depend on the love interest. If it's someone who is flirty and lovely and confident, I'd be kind of maybe not here for it, but I'd be like, okay, I can sit at this table. But if it's like a Gale scenario from Hunger Games, I will riot. Absolutely riot. Like I hate the, but I like them both trope. It drives me crazy. And I don't see Violet as someone who can't make up her mind or can't make a decision when it comes to her heart. She is brilliant. She is blunt. She does not give me love triangle vibes. I would also be okay with it because I do know that, again, only if it's like someone who is not a Gale scenario, I would be okay with it because I do know she's going to end up with Xaden. I don't think that Xaden's going to have a secondary love interest. He does ask about a Griffin Flyer at the end of the book, and Bodhi says Serena and her sister are both alive. Some have speculated that there might be some romantic involvement with Xaden in one of these Griffin Flyers. We actually... I took over TikTok one day and I made a reaction video to one of the comments that we received, and it blew up on the internet, and boy, oh boy, did I piss some people off.
So Nicole and I, it's never quite 50-50 with social media. It's a big energy for both of us, and we really tackle it, at day by day, however each of us can do it. So anyway, so I was the one managing the comments that evening, and I texted Nicole. I was like, you are not allowed to post these kind of controversial videos anymore because I don't like having to deal with the comment section. I think I finally just pieced out. It's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not here. Like, I agree with all of you. Stop yelling at me. Jeez.
I do. But here's the irony. I do too. I definitely agree with all of them too. I was so like, oh, I did not expect this to take off. Like we had people clipping our video and making it, like posting it on their own native feeds. And I was like, oh dear. Oh no. So again, now I have to say it for the fandom. I personally do not see this happening. Do you hear that? I personally do not see this happening. Given how infatuated Xaden is, especially at the end of the book when we get his POV, we see it again and again. I'm not giving her up. I'm going to give it all to like get her back and whatever not. I don't see him saying, never mind, I'm going to go fuck this Griffin flyer. I don't see that happening. Again, that's why I do see, if anything, it would be an infatuation on Violet's part. But even then, I do think it's just going to be the romantic tension between the two and them being the main couple throughout the entire series. I'm sweating. We got nervous.
Kind of moving away from Violet, but onto a different relationship here for Xaden. Oh, and also not the Griffin writer.
Never again. Yeah. Never again. Even when we get to that section in the book, I don't know if I have the heart to cover it. I truly don't.
Erica Leanne 26 asks, do you think we'll get to hear more about Xaden's mother in the next book? My answer is absolutely, definitely. Yes. The first book has a small throwaway line, and then it doesn't mention Xaden's mother for like the rest of the book. Now, of course, we get it in Xaden's POV, and Xaden is very secretive, so of course he's not talking to Violet about his family very much, but we do learn little things about his dad and his relationship with his dad, and we just never hear anything else about his mom. Like I said earlier in this episode, the first few books, I believe, will focus on our main, I'll say, human characters and their histories, family dynamics, learn their secrets, all of that. And I believe something about Xaden's mom could absolutely be another one of his secrets. Some speculate that she is indeed alive. I believe that I am also one of these speculators who believe that she's alive.
Yeah, same.
It's very possible that there's more to this story, especially after hearing how both Liam's parents were executed. It sets us up for like a different outcome on Xaden's family side. Could it be that it was his mom's mom or dad that Sigale bonded with? We've kept saying grandfather, who she was bonded with, and someone on TikTok actually did correct us. I'm so sorry. I don't have you in front of me, so I don't have your name to credit. But we have gotten that he's the grandson of her previous writer. So it could have been his grandmother as well. So something to consider. I will say that I don't think that his mom is part of the rebellion or was part of the rebellion. Just not from the tone that Xaden had when he was mentioning her. I think that like maybe she was on the Navarian side, and that's what caused so much complicatedness that Xaden's just like in his head, like, nope, I'm not even going to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
So some have also speculated that she's a Griffin flyer. And no matter what, I agree with you. I definitely think we're meeting her. If not in Iron Flame, I definitely think by book 3, when it's going to be, at least from my assumption, would be heavy politicking. I do think her identity is going to be some like big shock. I think that this is going to be, like you mentioned, one of the big secrets that he has. And I find this shit delicious. I'm so excited for this.
I love the idea that she's a Griffin flyer. Like,
right?
I love that. And then that's one of the reasons that Finn Ryerson drove the rebellion. Now, again, that also complicates things where it's like, why is Xaden not even willing to think about his mom? Not just talk about his mom, but not even think about her. So it makes me think there's some bad blood there, which makes me wonder if she's on the Navarian side. So anyway.
Maybe she when Fenn started really like speaking out for the rebellion and everything, maybe she like dipped out. Maybe she like super didn't support it. God, there's so many options. Right? I don't know.
Or maybe it's all super lame and she died when he was little and he doesn't want to think about it. Like
there's no way. There is no fucking way with that line in his POV. There's no way. Rebecca knew what she was doing when she wrote that line. She's like, yeah, suckers.
I cannot wait to read the special editions, 2 additional Xaden POVs. In fact, I realized that I did not pre-order it. Nicole, I think you pre-ordered it. So if I could borrow that book from you when you're done.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, we'll probably read it together and then maybe we'll do a bonus episode on it.
Obviously.
Amazing. Now moving on to Brennan. We got a lot of Brennan questions. Wild Redhead 7664 on Instagram asked, I have this theory that goes along with y'all's theory that Naolan brought Brennan back from the brink of death and that's what killed him. But I think he did it because they were lovers and wanted to know if y'all thought that was plausible or if you think the bringing him back definitely had to be for the good of the rebellion and that's it.
The Naolin and Brennan were lovers theory. I'm so here for it. This is one of
Same.
those, just like, why not? Like, why not, right? I love these kind of theories. I actually do agree that they were particularly close, whether that was platonic or more than that, because Naolin wouldn't just try to stretch his power to the limit for anybody. And I'm sure Taryn was telling him, stop, 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 as we know he is wont to do. I think that Naolin was emotionally caught up in the moment and knew that he could potentially do something about saving Brennan for the person that he is, not just the power or his purpose to the rebellion, to Navarre, but really for him as a person. And that really cements that they were very, very close emotionally. And he did do something about it, and it cost him his own life. I'm so interested to learn more about their relationship and to learn what really happened. Did Fenn Ryerson really shoot Brennan down with an arrow, and that is how Naolin brought him back? Did Naolin die from something else, and it actually had nothing to do with Brennan, and it's like a lie that they're all telling to make his death more heroic than it was? I don't know. I have no idea. And I wonder how soon we're going to get these answers in Iron Flame. I personally think that we're going to open up more with Basgiath and then learn throughout the book the pieces of what happened in Orisha.
I definitely think that Brennan, like I mentioned a few times, that Brennan's going to be a main character going forward in our story. I do think that with Violet back at Basgiath, I could see her writing back and forth with Brennan, and we get, more information about him and his side. Of course, this would be more sneakily. I don't know how they'd be able to do that in a way that isn't just blatantly obvious, but I do think we're going to get a lot more Brennan information going forward for sure.
Rach Brills asked, do you think Brennan has a relationship with Taryn, since Taryn's first writer was Naolin, who presumably brought Brennan back to life? If so, is that the reason Taryn chose Violet?
I think it depends on Brennan's relationship with Naolin. You and I both think that they were romantically involved. And if that is the case, obviously Brennan would be very, very familiar with Taryn. I don't think it's the entire reason by any means that Taryn chose Violet. I think Sigale heavily influenced him. I think also the fact that she was protecting Indarna made him think, oh yeah, this person's worthy of me being their writer. This is such a boring answer, but it depends. I do lean towards him being familiar with Taryn for sure.
And I agree that it's not the reason Taryn chose Violet, but Taryn does know of Brennan. I do want to point out, though, we have to remember that dragon relationships with other dragons' writers is very, very rare. Even Taryn almost killed Xaden when he tried to put a saddle on him, and Xaden is his mate's writer. And they're as much like family as two non-bonded dragon and writer can be. And there's even some tension between them, right? So I don't think that Taryn and Brennan would have their own relationship. I think that they would know of one another, absolutely, more so than most people would, but not have their own relationship that would especially motivate or influence Taryn and his choice to go with Violet.
I will say this, if there is a moment of Taryn and Brennan and Violet kind of being the go-between, I would be so here for it.
Let's wrap up this AMA bonus episode with Vanessa HK asking, do we have one fourth wing theory that has very little evidence, but you desperately hope it's true? And I'm combining this too with just what's our favorite theory, which was a very common question that we got.
I have two answers to this. One has smaller evidence and one has a lot of evidence. One of my favorite theories, and this will be a shock to everyone on the podcast, is that Indarna is royal.
Me too.
I love that idea. I don't think it's highly evident, but I do think there's a lot of supporting evidence that could be true. My second answer is also not going to shock anyone, and that is Xaden is an intrinsic. I went back and forth on this one for a really long time. Do I want this to be true? Do I not want this to be true? And I ultimately do think I land on the side that I do want this to be true, mainly because it is fucking delicious. I actually have a moment in episode 7 that I was reading. I was preparing this outline on the plane, and when I was just flying back and forth between Asheville, and I literally had such a moment that the two, because I was sitting in a middle seat, of course, these two guys were on either sides of me, and they kind of looked in my direction are you okay? I also had to shield my screen away from this older couple when I was working on chapter 32. It was great. Good experiences all around. But I will say there's a lot of evidence behind this, so I can't really put this necessarily in this question, but it is one of my favorite theories, and I do hope it's true. Mainly not because I want Xaden to be seen as the good guy here. I do think it would create a lot of like, ooh, hello, morally gray man. But mainly because I do think it would add such a delicious dramatic tension to our story.
And Darna is the equivalent of dragon royalty, is also one of my absolute favorites. I will also say that Violet as the prophesized savior of the realm is another big one for me.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't agree with the she kills one of her siblings part of the theory, but just that this is kind of a prophecy. She is more powerful. She is the, I'll say, chosen one, for instance, here. I was way too excited when during episode 6 talking about her signet and how it aligned with the brothers and the Fables book. Like there, it's all right there. So excited about that one. Another favorite is Melgren's dragon purposefully creating the loophole with the rebellion relics, and that is how they have their second signet. And that is why if there's more than 3 of them, then Melgren can't see. It just adds such a deeper level of complexity to the dragon politics and how they're pulling the strings. I don't know if I believe that one, but I do like it a lot. And then, another one is that the Navarian government is working with or even controlling the Venin. We'll talk about this a lot more in episode 8, our final episode. But Dane's dad sent Xaden and crew to Athbine knowing the Venin would attack. I'm pretty sure we can confirm that there, right? One of the Venin said, no wonder we were called here. Brennan, when he's introduced to the story at the very end, he references that it was absolutely not an accident or something along those lines. I don't know if, they were drawn there by the powers of the box or if Navarian leadership is just way, way, way worse than we ever expected. And they are literally working with the Venin here. I can't believe it. I don't already mention Imogen's,
I was going to say, who's your girl?
That's another favorite theory as well. How she's hiding this mind wipe being a signet from everybody. I'm sorry, I'm just starting to list off theories now because they're all my favorites. Except, no offense, the Jack is dead one. That is not one of my favorites.
I don't even
I'm sorry, Jack is not dead. Jack is not dead.
It is just so cemented in my brain that Jack is dead. I also want to echo another one of my least favorite theories is that Liam will come back. And not because I don't like Liam. I fucking love Liam. And his death is such a powerful moment in the story where him coming back would just not...
It would cheapen it so much.
It would cheapen it, and I just don't love it.
My heart wishes, but if he actually did come back, I would be pretty upset. I would lose trust in the story if that happened.
Whoa, fighting words there. So last but not least, there was one question that we received a lot from you all, and that is, are we inviting listeners and or other collaborators onto the show? And we meant to address this actually in our first AMA, and we totally forgot. So we're addressing it now. But because of the nature of the deep dive episodes, those will always be the 2 of us.
Yep. And, we've received actually a lot of pitches for authors to come on as guests. And we just have to be really selective about making sure, first of all, that the author is up your alley. So we're so excited about the authors that we are going to bring on, and you are absolutely going to love them. We can't share yet.
You're not ready. Oh my God.
And again, I'm going to say it's not Rebecca.
So as of right now, what we're doing is definitely more of Lexi and I doing these deep dive episodes because that's what we hear you all loving so much. We love the bonus episodes, and we are excited to have some other people on. Again, we have an author that we're freaking excited to tell you all about. When it comes to listeners, we do have something that we've been hearing a lot from you guys, which is starting a Discord and having something where you all are able to collaborate and talk about theories, and we can talk together in real time. We totally hear you. We've talked a lot about it ourselves. We are really planning on making something along these lines happen in the future. We were not expecting this to blow up in the way that it did. And so we're just kind of needing to take some time to figure it all out so we don't jump into something that we're not able to keep up with, because we really want to be able to spend that time with you all. And
we don't want to half-ass any of this. And so we want to make sure that we do it right and we set it up for the long term.
We've got a lot of things down the pipeline that we're really excited for you all. And with that is today's theorizing? Sure, episode.
Remember, we do have our Fourth Wing quiz going on right now. It is linked in the episode description and it is all over our social profiles. We're slowly but surely starting to put out some of the results, and they are so much fun, you all.
So good.
So much fun. And of course, speaking of which, on social media, gotta follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Fantasy Fangirls Pod. And as we all plan for Iron Flame's release, we, Nicole and I, will be at Barnes & Noble in Glendale, aka Denver, Colorado. So if you're local, we'd love to see you. Let us know if you'll also be there and we'll come say hi. And of course, don't worry, friends. You all are asking if we are going to cover Iron Flame. Of course we're going to cover Iron Flame, just like we are with Fourth Wing here. Our reaction video is going to be on November 10th, and then the episode 1 deep dive is going to be starting November 20th, and then, of course, new episodes every week on Mondays.
And as always, please, please, please rate and review the show. We officially hit 1,000 5-star reviews on Spotify. Holy shit, y'all. But please keep it coming. It is so helpful for getting us up the charts and getting more people to discover the show. A lot of people have discovered the show just from searching in Spotify, and that's truly a testament to how much you all are rating and reviewing. If you haven't already, drop a little love note in the Apple reviews section. Lexi and I literally text back and forth. They make our day when we receive a new one. We're like, oh my God, did you see this? We send screenshots to each other and just weep. And last but not least, you all know what I'm going to say. Share this with your fellow Fourth Wing friends. That person who just fucking finally finished the book that you've been begging to read the book for 3 months. Send them this podcast. We've had a lot of people mention how this is curing their Fourth Wing hangover before Iron Flame. That's our goal. We love it. We're planning on doing the same thing with the Iron Flame hangover because we know Rebecca's gonna wreck us. So thank you all so much for sharing and keep it going.
We will talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.